big trouble. The network wants to pull the plug. Roseanne hates the script. The writer hates Roseanne. It's a mess.
And that will begin a high-stakes battle between two very powerful people on this show. Roseanne Barr, its star, Matt Williams, its creator and executive producer, that will never be resolved.
We had big fights.
Oh, yeah. We all were aware of that, yeah. I mean, we were right there.
Roseanne wanted him out. Roseanne wanted control of the ship creatively. The tension was, unbelievable.
I remember he threw over a table and chairs and said, "I'm not a scribe."
She was promised a show to voice her point of view, and what was on the page at that point was really not that.
The show premieres in October of 1988. As the cast watches the pilot, Roseanne notices something is missing.
Because that is the first time that Roseanne Barr sees the credit created by Matt Williams. She believes that she is the creator of Roseanne.
Roseanne had it tougher because as a woman coming into it, especially in those days, she really had to fight for the power.
You were in the first year of Roseanne. It was a big hit.
Yeah.
You played what, her boss?
Yes. The first season, she wanted it to be a specific way. Matt Williams did not. And there was a big fight, and she eventually asked Matt to leave. Now, Matt's a nice guy and very talented. Roseanne was right.
He beat the crap.
No, he didn't. It's no big deal.
I came back to her and I said, powers that be are very concerned about this, don't want to do it. She said, we're doing it. I said, okay, great.
Roseanne was one of the first people in that arena that said, no, this is it. It has to be this good all the time or I'm not going to do it.
Don't say any more.
She was always willing to sacrifice some of the laughs in a sitcom for the depth. And I think people loved her for that reason. I did. If you're working for Roseanne, she's not going to settle for much at all. And rightly so. Her name's on it, and it's her story. It's her real life.
I had no worries that it was going to come back and be this different show, but I was just like, how crazy are they going to get?
Yeah.
I bet you they're going to say the N-word. Ooh. Roseanne is a stand-up. I think she's closer to the way I write.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I probably wouldn't have thought I was going to do it, but when I told you, when I said, do you want to do it, you said, oh yeah, you're the right person. Like, I feel like you thought I was the right person to try to bring everybody aboard.
Well, you're easy for everyone to get along with, so that's important.
So far.
Sucker.
During her 30 minutes before Reporters Monday, Barr was pushed multiple times to explain how her politics impacted the show. Showrunner Bruce Helford said the writing staff had a lot of discussions about the character's personal beliefs, and it was really about getting dialogue going in an honest way. He added, there's no agenda on anybody's part.
I do want to talk about it, but I'll try to do it briefly. The first thing was the first thing where I felt that I was up against something huge was the first time that we did a press event for ABC for the show, and they had the whole family come out. We sat on the couch, and we were told that we were going to answer questions about the show, right? Mm-hmm. And I never wanted to be out there alone because I knew it would all be about me and things I'd said about the election. Well, so now the same presidents that canceled me were standing there, and we're talking about presidents of a big network that at any point can step forward to go, we don't really like this line of questioning. We're here to discuss our new show. But they never did. And it seems so coordinated now. The first 5 questions were from African-American journalists. And this was the first question, 1 through 5, all 5 of them. How can you, who were this person who was, against racism, against homophobia and all the isms, somebody who stood for justice, how could you now embrace racism and a racist president? and I would say, well, that's your opinion and I don't agree with you. So then he'd sit down, and then the next one stand up and say the very same thing. And the presidents of ABC could have said, let's move on to talk about the show. And John Goodman said, they're trying to crucify you. And finally, and my fellow cast member, the other producers, said, don't say anything, don't say anything. So I didn't. I just said, well, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. But by the fifth time, I was very angry. And this woman, that was a woman, and she said all that too about racism. And I said then, and I think this really made them angry, because anytime you express an alternative view to leftists, they get angry.
Yes.
But I said racism, the reason I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton is because of Haiti. Do you know anything about Haiti? If you're talking about racism, and they brought down a joke, and I said, oh, I don't think this is the right joke. And it was a joke about other shows on ABC, other working class shows. And I said, I think this is insulting. And they said, no, it's about all working class people, support all other ones, Asian, Black, you've got to show that. And so I just let myself be talked into it. So I said it. 2 days later, the New York Times comes out and uses that joke, saying, this is the racism that the Roseanne Show is about. And I didn't write that. And, my instincts were right. I was right. It was insulting, but the president of ABC defended that joke in a big article the next day, of course, saying, she defended the writers, not me. She defended the people who wrote the joke and not me. So I was getting slimed there double. And then, there were a few other things like that happened along the way to my tweet. And that morning of the tweet, it was Memorial Day. And already I had sent my favorite writers from the original show to interview to get back on this show, because I felt like, it would be fun to have people who really know these characters. They were all rejected. All the Black writers I sent were rejected. All the Hispanic writers that I personally searched for and sent, they rejected. And that day I called and said, when are we all going to start writing? When, because every idea of that whole reboot is mine, that I had 20 years to think about. When I called that day on Memorial Day saying, when are the writers' room, when does that start up? And he said, we've already started. And I just felt my brain crumble. And he goes, but we would love so much for you to drop in and say hello.
Wow.
And so I knew I had already lost control. I knew I had lost control of my show.
I was allowed under my contract to have 24 hours to correct any mistake. And I asked them to let me go on The View and their other shows and explain and correct that I didn't say what they were putting out there. And, they said, no, you can't till the contract's ready. And that took weeks.
Right.
But anyway, I walked away.
You felt bad about your staff. I did see that.
I didn't want to cause anybody to lose their jobs. I'm for working people. There are so many double standards of people who said things on the air. Remember, I just said it to a small population, less than 600,000 people on Twitter. But these people say things on the air, and they are not. Well, I know Joy had to call Pence and apologize, so.
Yeah, what did Joey Behar say about Pence that was so bad?
Something
about his Christian faith.
Yeah, that they're psychotic or something because they
So she called him and apologized?
Jesus. Yeah, that's what I heard. An apology with your network behind you really works. Like with what's her name that called Ivanka the names? I can't remember.
Oh, Samantha Bee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And her network was behind her. And that was far more offensive. And it was on the air. It doesn't ever just stop at one person. That's why I said I'm surprised that a lot more comics didn't defend me, because, this means that anything they find in your timeline that they think is offensive, they can mischaracterize and bring a whole battle against you that you can't possibly win and take your life's work.